Today's video is sponsored by Zhiyun because we'll be checking out their latest gimbal, the Weebill 2, a very interesting gimbal that has a flip-out screen. It's actually pretty cool.
Oh, it's a good day to be alive. I count my blessings and keep them all at my side. There ain't no stopping us, we're starting to ride. We keep on running and we're feeling alright. Go on, get loose. Yeah, you better get used to me, go get loose. Yeah, you better get used to me, oh. Can't stop moving, I can't stop moving, no. Got a really good feeling, I got a really good feeling, no. Can't stop moving, I can't stop moving.
All right, I'm gonna be honest. All gimbals are pretty much the same. They function the same way. They help you film smooth gimbal shots. I mean, some may have better features than others, but that's pretty much it. The Weebill 2 honestly is just another gimbal. I mean, it's a strong gimbal, it's a great gimbal, but having a flip out screen kind of makes this gimbal stand out above the rest. So when Zhiyun sent this gimbal out, I mean, I was really excited. I mean, I was a big fan of the original Weebill gimbal. Like, I took that gimbal out with me to the Arctic and it was great. I mean, it wasn't the strongest gimbal, but it was awesome. I loved traveling with it. I love the size of that gimbal. And I love that the Weebill 2 still retains that, except it has stronger motors. The button layout is a lot better. Like, they're all where your thumb is. Like, that's handy. Pun intended. But the button layout is great. The overall design is awesome. Like, I love the rugged, sleek design. It just looks really good. Where the original Weebill looked kind of plasticky. But the Weebill 2 is a pretty robust gimbal. There are some other improvements, like the improved locking mechanisms for each of the axes. Like with previous Zhiyun gimbals, the locking mechanisms had this sliding switch, which sometimes was a little hard to lock and unlock. But with the Weebill 2, the locking mechanisms have this nubbin instead of the switch. So it does make it easier to lock an axis and unlock it. Are we rolling? Are we? Okay. Another improvement with Weebill 2 is the actual control wheel. Now you can use this to activate the follow focus, which I don't really use because Sony cameras are really awesome with autofocusing. But with the control wheel, you can actually use it to change the camera's ISO or aperture or shutter speed, which is really handy. Again, pun intended. Now, even though the Weebill 2 does have the different gimbal modes on the side, like you have pan, follow, lock, and follow, I actually found that it was a lot easier switching between gimbal modes on the actual touchscreen. Like with this sequence that I shot, like I had to go through the different gimbal modes and it was really, really easy just using the touchscreen. Speaking of which, let's talk about the touchscreen. Yeah, you can go through all the different options and settings within the menu, which is great. Like I really love, after trying to balance my camera on the gimbal, I like going through the menu and just do an auto calibration just to make sure that the gimbal is properly tuned to carry that camera. Where with previous Zhiyun gimbals, you kind of had to use that really small LCD screen to go through the different settings and menu options, or even use the app on your phone, which I really don't like doing. Like when I'm filming with a gimbal, I just like simplifying the process. I would just hate having to use my phone just to go through the settings of the gimbal. Like it's a lot easier just using the touchscreen. In fact, with Weebill 2, the only reasons why I would use the ZY Play app is to either upgrade the firmware of this gimbal or to use the sync motion, which is actually a really cool feature that kind of syncs the movements between the gimbal and your phone. But other than upgrading the firmware or using the sync motion, I just don't really have a use for using the app. I mean, with previous gimbals, I would use the app to set up my time-lapse settings, but you can do all that with the menu using the touchscreen. Also, what's really cool is that you can check out your balance on the touchscreen. Like you can see which axis is using more strength than usual, which is very useful, especially with front-heavy camera setups, because it's kind of hard to actually balance a front-heavy camera setup on any gimbal. And so yeah, I just found it really helpful just to see if the balance was properly done just by using the display. And yes, of course, you can use the display as an external monitor as well, which is pretty awesome. I mean, it's not the best monitor by any means, but it's a monitor. You do have to use the image transmission if you want to use the flip out display as an external monitor. And I find that extremely helpful because I don't like having to attach external monitors on a gimbal. Like I said before, like whenever I operate a gimbal, I just want the entire process to be as simple as possible. And if I can get away operating a gimbal by just using the camera screen, then I'll just use that. But with the flip out display already built in, it kind of just streamlines the process of setting up a gimbal. So yeah, it's a pretty awesome feature. One thing to note is that the colors on the flip out screen don't necessarily match the colors of my camera screen. I mean, I'm using the a7S III and Sony screens aren't really the best anyway, but I did find it interesting that the colors were slightly different. I also found that there was a slight delay on the flip out screen. I mean, not significantly delayed, and you don't really see it in slower shots, but when it comes to like whip pans and fast movements, then yeah, there is a slight delay. Honestly, I don't really mind. I mean, I just use this for reference anyway. Like if I'm booming from above and I'm doing like a down shot, like I can't see my shot on the camera screen because I'm not looking at the camera screen. But with the flip out display, it makes it totally possible to help you film in any angle. I did find it a little difficult trying to figure out which cable fit into which ports. I mean, it really wasn't clear from the manual or from other YouTube videos on how to properly connect your camera to the image transmission, to the gimbal, so that you can use the flip out display as an external monitor. I kind of had to figure that out on my own, but basically with my a7S III, I connected my camera to the image transmission by using the HDMI cable. And then I used this specific USB-C cable with the yellow tag, connected it to this port of the image transmission to this side of the gimbal. And then with the flip out display, I just swiped all the way down to activate the external monitor feature. It wasn't the easiest, but just in case you're wondering, that's how you do it. And so overall, I think this gimbal is great. I mean, again, it functions like any other gimbal out there. Films really smooth shots, great. And of course it features Zhiyun's notable gimbal modes like lock mode, pan follow, follow mode, POV mode, go mode, vortex, and even portrait mode. All that is great, all that works fine, but I gotta say, my favorite feature of the Weebill 2 is the flip out screen. Really, really love it, and I think just helps make the gimbal operating experience a lot easier. So there you go, that is the Zhiyun Weebill 2, a really, really good gimbal with an awesome flip out screen. And if you wanna check one out, maybe grab one for yourself, then make sure to click the links down below. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, thanks for hanging out. Thank you, Zhiyun, for sponsoring this video. And yeah, don't know how to end this video. Okay, bye.